a big part of like why we've been successful is so far is just consistency is one. And Kate mentioned like she's gone to school for business, but really I think that you can do any amount of schooling you want to, but until you get out there on the street and start, whether it's knocking doors or doing something and making it happen, none of the application of what your knowledge is will make any difference. I like one quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Yeah, we'll cut that. I like one quote that goes like this by Ralph Waldo Emerson that says, "That which we persist in doing becomes easier. The nature of the thing may not change, but our power to accomplish it increases." And I feel like with our banana bread, it's been, we're not professional bakers by any means. Like anyone can go out and do whatever they want to do and make it happen if they want it bad enough. And every step we have run into roadblock after roadblock, but we've decided to not make them roadblocks, but make them speed bumps.
Yep.
And I think that's where people get in this point where they just keep hammering away at something and saying like, oh, I can't do it because of X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. We had a day where we baked over 200 loaves in just our kitchen, and we got done and we tasted one of them and we were stupid because we were like, oh, they should all be good. And we didn't taste test one before and they were all bad.
Yeah, something happened with the baking soda and they were all bitter and we literally had to throw all of them away.
And we're like, we can't have a bad loaf. Especially when you're beginning, everything has to be perfect because it's like, you can't, one good review does great, but one bad review does a whole lot worse.
Cancels 100 good ones.
It doesn't matter. And we're like, we got to keep it simple and we've got to keep it consistent. I'm sure there's a ton of different like great hamburgers, right? But who has the longest line? In-N-Out, McDonald's. And so we had to say, okay, we need to simplify and to say we're keeping with our classic and our chocolate chip banana bread. And then we'll maybe start adding on later. Because I think that's another part that a lot of businesses struggle with at the beginning is having too many options. Yes. Or starting off with a lot of things. And it's like, we just have to be good at one thing. And we can't be something for everybody. And I think that was a big part of like what we talked as far as like strategy goes. Some of it was just flying by the seat of our pants. And I think good luck meets with opportunity meets with hard work. But if you're not able to find that combo, and most of it's hard work, I think. And then the other things can, you have a little bit of that God helps you out with on the other side.
People that work harder tend to be more lucky.
Yeah. Exactly.
And also, I think with that, those who work hard, I think there's like a certain amount of people or a certain kind of people that are drawn to that type of person. It's honestly been amazing. Like we didn't really know a lot of people here in St. George before this, but just like proactively being out in the community, the type of people that would just like lift you up and that you want to be around were just like drawn to us. And then we were able to find more people. You asked, how did you like find all these connections? They just kind of naturally happened as we were proactive and just like put ourselves out there, which it's scary to put yourself out there. And there's been plenty of nights when I was just like felt defeated and crying because someone said something rude about us or tried to put us down, and I'm just like, I have all these people saying nice things, but the one person that's saying something bad, it just like gets you down, But honestly, it's like you put good out there. I honestly believe that other people are going to reciprocate that and,
Well, when you said you read the comments, I was like, ooh, that might not be a good idea. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but it's just there's always that one person.
Yeah.
Right?
Always got some, and that's what's like was so interesting to me. We had a few people, very few, but especially one person. They kind of came after Kate, and I was like getting defensive, like, it's a mom like on the side of the street selling banana bread. Like, what do you have negative to say? And she got really down one night and she was crying. And I was like, this sucks. I'm sorry. But like, if anything, let that fuel your fire.
Right.
Because there's always going to be people like that in your life. And I think on social media, we always put our, best face forward. Mm-hmm. We filter it all up. We, even us, we could be here talking and saying like, oh, we're just so great at banana.
We're killing it.
Oh yeah, we're doing great. And it is going good. But to say that it hasn't come without its struggles would be asinine.
Well, I think that was important to mention. Like, hey, man, there was nights that I was sitting there crying because one person, right? And but that's part of it. It's all I had a guy just on the podcast, and he's really good at this, and I'm not. He runs a business. He does a lot of things, but mainly he runs like a business that he's pretty hands-on with, and he's like shooting stories of himself the whole time, right? Like, and I don't do that. But stuff like that, like that's the stuff people need to understand. And even just your posts, hey, I'm over here. It's like, oh, they're actually doing this. And then you go check the dates and you're like, oh shit, they've done this every day. Like they're there every day. And like, that's the consistency you're talking about. And it's required to build something, especially like that, just from scratch, right?
And I think like too, what we're building is relationships, and that's been so important. Like every post I make, I try to thank the community because I genuinely mean it. Like we would not have success without the community, and most everyone has just been so supportive, and like I've made really good friends because of it already. Like so many people I know by name that will buy from us consistently, and like I consider them a friend, and that's been super cool.
Where are you guys from?
So I grew up in Pocatello, Idaho.
Okay.
And I grew up in Panguitch. So not too far from here.
So not too far. That's what I was going to say. Like, so you guys are kind of starting from scratch, coming from, it's not like you had this like friend group or your mom showing up to buy and stuff like that. That's like what draws a crowd is a crowd, and you guys didn't start with a crowd. You just started from scratch.
Yeah, it was very much just us out there hoping and praying that things would fall into place and
get rained on and fold up shop and go out the next day.
Yeah. And I think that's been part of like our marriage and the things that we've found out. We've been married for 6.5 years now, and a big part of that has been that we stick together and we work through things, whatever they are. And we always want to work together, whether it's business or whatever else. And kind of that yin and yang thing has helped carry us through a lot of this. And I mean, like banana bread wasn't the first thing. I think people think that like, oh, they're successful at banana bread, so that must have been what they've been planning this whole time.
Yeah.
Or people say, oh, what'd you get a degree in? And like with film and stuff, when I was working for the big YouTuber and got, all this stuff, I learned it all online. And people think like, well, so that you just planned on doing this or you went to school? So it's like, no, like there were 20, 30, 40 other ideas that failed before we got to this one that finally worked.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give that disillusion to people thinking that like, oh, I'll go out and try it and this thing will work. Because you have that roller coaster. So when you start telling family, like, we're trying this thing, and they're like, yeah, sure.
This is probably like our, 30th business idea we've tried.
And it's been, some of them were just bad.
But that's part of it, though. Yeah. I mean, I've had, so I don't know if you guys know any of my background at all, but I have like 5 businesses that went nowhere. And then like my day-to-day thing now is I have a safe store on Sunset. And so we do like gun safes, home safes, commercial safes, vault doors, vault rooms, kind of.
Was that over kind of by the laundromat?
Yeah, okay, right next to that. Yeah, so that's us. And so people are like, oh, dude, like, how did you get started? And I'm like, well, I failed like 17 times, and I had all these ideas and I had all these conversations with people, and that's a huge part of it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think like it's a good point that you brought up where social media makes it look like, oh, dude, I tried one thing and I struck gold.
Yeah.
And it's just not the case.
Yeah.
And that struggle is so part of it. I mean, I've been pretty open on here about, I'm running 5 businesses a day, like every day right now, 7 days a week. And I mean, there's days where I've just had it. I have bad days. And my wife, she's a nurse practitioner in orthopedic trauma surgery. So like she has her own life that she's dealing with every day. And we have a 2-year-old. Almost 3, and it's just like, dude, there's struggles. Like there's struggles every day. Yeah. Like I came straight from, I've been working all day with our post office contracts, and I came straight here from Leeds, and so like I've not stopped, right?
Yeah.
And so it's cool to see. I just think it's important to bring up to people that, hey man, there is struggles, and I want to touch back what you said about being crazy too. Like if you have kind of a crazy idea and everyone's like, dude, you're nuts. Like you don't need them to believe in you.
No.
And I love that both you guys are so in on this together, because it's like you had each other.
Mm-hmm.
And for you guys, I mean, using your words, like that's what you guys needed really. It was just each other.